Welcome back to Justice. Now, Joe Scarborough said he was outraged at the prospect of Andrew McCabe being fired. Take a listen.
Just here's a guy that has served admirably. And also, this whole narrative by Republicans that McCabe and the FBI somehow was anti-Trump is ridiculous. What he is accused of leaking was detrimental to Hillary Clinton, the Clinton Foundation, and the Clinton campaign, just like Comey's letter helped elect Donald Trump. So do you really fire a guy 2 days before his retirement because the president of the United States is applying pressure over Twitter to do that?
And that's just one of the most outrageous things I heard this week. Joining me now, former Arkansas governor and Fox News contributor, Mike Huckabee. Good evening, Governor. You know, I got to tell you, that Morning Joe is always good for my outrageous segment. He says, Andrew McCabe's an upstanding citizen. He doesn't deserve to be fired. What say you?
Well, why wouldn't he deserve to be fired? If he lied to the FBI and he's part of the leadership of the FBI, of course he's got to be fired. And the fact that it was coming around his retirement had nothing to do with anything other than we shouldn't, as taxpayers, be on the hook for $1.8 million in retirement benefits for someone who, if he did what the Inspector General says he did and what the Office of Professional Responsibility has indicated he did, it's not just a firing he ought to be worried about. He ought to be worried about what happened to Martha Stewart, what happened to Mike Flynn. And if I were Mike Flynn's lawyer, I'd go right now to court and say, let my people go. I mean, why not, for heaven's sakes?
Well, and the amazing thing is that, McCabe lied about something having to do with an investigation, a criminal investigation, whereas Mike Flynn, his lie, and people in the FBI, many of them in that room think he didn't lie, was not about a crime, that the crime was not a part of the lie. But let's go on. Now, Jennifer Palmieri, you remember her? She compares the Trump White House to The Godfather. I think we have some sound on this.
You remember the scene from The Godfather. We so often have to go back to The Godfather during this administration as for points of reference. But when they got rid of the 5 heads of the other crime families in one swoop, and I feel like the purging that you've seen of staff over the last few days and week is about Mueller and is about anxiety.
You know what's amazing about this? In my open, Governor, I talked about a crime family, and that one being in the FBI. Not the regular men and women in the FBI, but that 7th floor in the FBI building. What do you think of this crime family comparison?
Well, I think what Jennifer should have said is leave the gun, take the cannoli. I mean, she totally missed the whole point. The reason that there has been various people leaving government is because Donald Trump is a business guy. He is used to putting people around him who are competent, and if people around him don't get the job done, he lets them go. People in government aren't used to this. They're used to seeing people remain in jobs for years and years and years, even if they're utterly incompetent, ineffective, and inefficient. And people in Washington are dumbstruck that you would actually have somebody who would take seriously the role of chief executive and would get rid of people who don't do their jobs. Look, from the time we were in first grade, we didn't get to go to recess if we didn't finish our coloring. Donald Trump looks at people around him, and if they didn't finish their coloring on time, he tells them there's not only going to be a missed recess, but the famous words for which he is notorious for, you're fired. And he's saying it to some people, some of whom need it.
I couldn't agree with you more. Governor Mike Huckabee, always good to have you on Justice. Thanks so much.
Always a pleasure.
Talking
Thanks.
sanctuary cities with RNC committee woman Harmeet Dillon is next.